there's something that's called the construction change directive that you can have. So you're on the side of the mountain or you're in the building and you run into extra work that needs to be done. You don't have really time to stop that. Run down, price it, bring it to you, bring it, God forbid, the select board. And so the general contractor under the contracts, or the owner can, a lot of times it's the architect, issue what's known as a construction change directive, which is do the work, we'll work on the pricing later. And we'll work it out. And typically, my experience, I've worked in this area as a lawyer. My experience has been that these typically default to a T&M contract plus the fee and whatever else you've negotiated into the general contractor's contract. So you can actually, if I'm only bringing this up because last summer was not a particularly good summer at the Snow Bowl, as we all know. There's a lot of erosion, we had some huge storms, a lot of emergency work. And you didn't have time in that emergency work to fill out a change order request, to get a bunch of pricing, to come down here, come down to that, come down to this gentleman, and get it all done. So the problem you're looking at, should we have a repeat, and I hope we don't, but I tend to work in the construction world where things don't go well, you can have some real budget busts on those things. And that's something you really want to be aware of. Leonard was asking some questions about, obviously, budget sensitive. You don't have a blank check to do this. How are you going to keep these costs under control? I can tell you that a major part of my career has been dealt with what happens after these things get out of control. And it's not hard. You just have to have one sort of a disaster out there. But you don't have time, many times. In fact, even on a decent construction project where you're not having a problem. Take a typical home construction project. You got a tile setter in there. And the husband or wife decides instead of just in the bathroom, they want the entryway tiled. So typically you'd have a change order for that, except the tile setter, he's booked up for the next 3 months. So he can't come back. So somebody says, do the tile while you're out here. They do the tile, it's $4,000. Nobody knows that till about 60 days later, and everybody's looking like deers in the headlights. That's the sort of thing that can happen on these projects. I don't know what the mechanism is going to be for it, but I think that if you are anticipating that you're going to get to approve a change order every time there's additional work, I don't think that's going to happen, because that additional work is going to come up like that. That's why it's called additional work many times. You're not anticipating it. Work that you can anticipate, completely different sort of thing. Everybody just needs to be really aware that that white elephant is out there on these projects. I mean, I'm glad to know there is a construction manager at risk because that changes the dynamics of this sort of thing considerably in terms of the town being at risk. But I can tell you GPM contracts get extended and increased all the time. And they get increased all the time for a lot of reasons. Many times it has nothing to do with whether the general contractor is performing or not performing. And most of the time it has to do with changed site conditions that nobody anticipated. And the owner gets stuck. And stuck might not be the correct word, but it ends up on the owner's desk to pay when all this is over. GPM is great so long as you don't have anything going on out there. But this is, as we all know, an environmentally sensitive project on the side of a mountain that has a history of problems. You just need to be aware of those kinds of things before you go down this trail. You have to go down the trail. I'm just saying, you don't have a choice. You have to have the work done. You just need to be extremely concerned. You need to pay attention to everything. I tell my clients there's no such thing as too much paperwork on a construction project. And I submit that's the case to you. You gentlemen need to be on top of this. Not just Pat, not Miss Landon, not just this gentleman from Ledgewood, but you gentlemen have the trust of the town in your hands. You need to be on top of it. And you need to follow it every single day with what's going on. Price-wise, extra work-wise, what's happening to these change orders, are there anything, these constructive change directives out there? Because the AIA contracts provide for that sort of thing. I mean, how else are you going to build a project? You can't do it. So, anyway, it's my 2 cents.
Thank you.